That's cool.
All right. The screen
Yeah, that's
says we are
cool.
live. Oh man. You know what? For everybody who's just joining us right now, you guys miss the stuff that happens when we're backstage before this stuff starts. You're missing the good stuff. But
Yes.
welcome everybody to the Optimist Guides. We are doing another installment. We've been doing this every month. Uh, the Dad Survival Guide. And with me on the other side of the screen, right there, is my ever faithful friend and co host, the Curtis York, the
See if
host.
it does. Oh, I
And
love it.
the Curtis York is on his phone today. Clearly,
Yeah, and
he's got
apparently
the
the
good stuff
experience
going.
is way better because I can do these cool things with my hands. And now it doesn't want to do it again. But yeah, we're here. How's it going?
Good. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the stream. I'm so happy to have you here. We missed you last month. We had Alicia on being the co-host, and that was good. You're having car troubles, I guess.
Yeah, so the temperature drops and obviously the cold weather here is nothing compared to Canada cold weather,
Not
but
even close.
yeah, exactly, thankfully. So, yeah, it killed the battery in the truck, so I had to go out there and change the battery. And because our truck has like extra stuff, you have to move it. And what should have
Mm,
been a simple unscrew, take the battery off, put the battery on, you're done. Turned out to be unscrewing some additional parts and then having to buy some extra parts to fix the
uh,
parts. And
mm,
it turned into a little rabbit hole that was unexpected. So,
yeah,
yeah, by the time I finished, you guys were wrapping up. But
yeah.
I was there. I was listening in the background in between using my phone as a flashlight. And Alicia did amazing. I'm sad that she's not here with us on this one, but hopefully we'll work out something and we have her back because her energy is sorely missed.
Absolutely, and Curtis just alluded to it as well. And yeah, Alicia may be back with us on a little more permanent basis, kind of hosting along with us and giving us a kind of different vibe and energy for us to talk about these issues, which I think is going to be really cool. So stay tuned for that because it's gonna be definitely something different and something that I think is going to just pull us along and pull us up, and I think it's going to be really good.
Oh yeah, having an additional moderator is gonna be great because it allows yourself to be free, so you can focus on answering the questions instead of steering and you know um
Yep.
participating as well. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. Plus, we get to work with Alicia. I mean, we love working with Alicia anyway. So
That is true. And I mean, if you guys haven't seen, and for you guys who are watching, you guys need to check out, first of all, check out her page. But we have both worked with her on different occasions and different, by the way, this is her, that's her YouTube channel and her socials. But we've worked with her on several different occasions. I've worked with her on my other channel, MNTV Family, and you've worked with her as well on your channel at Yorktown. So I think
hmm
so. We
yeah,
know her
and
well, and
pardon
it's going to
me,
be
I'm
good.
here, but I think today is perfect, the topic, because I am actually living it as we talk about it right now because the wife is busy as I'm busy, so we're both sharing the duty watching the kids. She's in a meeting for her family reunion and they have like a
Okay.
501c3 which is a nonprofit organization. So it
Hmm.
is very serious and very detailed. And what we do is very serious and very detailed as well. So we have to share the load and watch these kids. So I
Yeah,
apologize
absolutely.
if it affects the experience, but we are we're sharing the task.
You know what? It's all good. I mean, we called this the Dad Survival Guide for a reason, and part of that is a dad's job is not ever done. I mean, I tell people all the time. I remember when I was like a younger parent, and I had my child Isaac, and I'd take him to the store or something like that, and have him in the stroller, and you'd have older ladies, especially white ladies, be like, "Oh, you're babysitting your kids," and
Mhm.
that used to irk me so much. I was like, I do not babysit my children; they're my children. I parent them, right? And
Yes.
even now, when going through this separation and all that kind of stuff, people are like, "Oh, you're a part-time parent." I'm like, "No, I'm not. I am, even if the children are not physically here, I am their dad 24/7, 365." Right? It doesn't change. If they were here, I would still have to find ways to do what I need to do and still have them around. And that's what you're doing too. And I mean, nothing but praise for doing that and finding a way to still do what you need to do while still having your kids around. That's what it's all about.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So,
Yes.
but
But
like you
we're here.
mentioned, we are we're going to talk about stress today.
Right.
We're going to talk about managing and dealing with stress like a pro. And that is not to say that either of us are pros at it. We have our thoughts, definitely, and our ways of dealing with it. And we want to talk about that and have that chat with you in the audience and you who are going to be listening, and just talk about, as especially as men, right? As men, we are not taught a lot about dealing with stress other than just deal with it, power and push through and whatever not. And I feel like that is one of the reasons why maledom is the way it is today, because like, and I mean, I'm going to put this into the man woman context, and I know it's changing slowly, but it's still kind of this way, where women are taught to be expressive, they're taught to deal with their stress, they're taught to be open about these things, and as men we're not taught to be open about our feelings, our emotions, our stresses, our joys, our fears, whatever. We're not taught to really deal with those in a real way. So what ends up happening is we ball it up, we keep it down, and then we explode, right? And the thing is, that would happen to anybody. Like, if women in general were taught the same way men were, to kind of ball up your feelings and just deal with it, they'd explode too. Anybody would, because you can't do that sustainably, right, in the long term, just not deal with what your life actually is.
Yeah, I think of it like shaking up a soda can. When you shake it up and you shake it up and you shake it up, eventually that thing is just going to pop because there's so much pressure that's being built up over time, and you got to have
Mhm.
a release for it and a way to let it out, healthily and constructively, so that you can not hurt anybody or hurt yourself in the process. But yeah, I agree 100%.
Yeah, I am with you there. So we're gonna go at it. We're gonna talk about this. We're gonna be just like every episode. We're gonna be real. We're gonna be honest, but we're not gonna be negative. For those who may be in the chat and stuff like that, we're gonna keep it positive. And as my name says, right there it is. Says we're gonna keep it optimistic. So
Yeah.
yeah, let's hit at it, and just we'll start with talking about how do you know when you're stressed? Like, what are the signals that you get that kind of give you a self indicator that maybe you're hitting your limits?
For me personally, I can feel it. Like I can feel my blood boiling. I can feel, the anxiety rising, I guess. I think even that in itself, anxiety, that's something that anxiety is a form of stress. And, I
Hmm.
think that anxiety is something that we don't really look at and think about. But yeah, I can feel myself getting anxious. I usually get like a feeling right here in my stomach randomly.
Mm.
And I know, all right, I got to figure out something. I got to do something different because this is not working for me. And so, yeah, those I look for those signs, and when I feel those signs, I implement practices to try to work on relieving those, which we'll talk about a little later. But what about you? How do you know that you're stressed out? What happens with you?
So the first thing, like, I'm a very physical person. Like, I'm very, like, what do they say? You're hard on your sleeve type of person. So I physically, I know I'm stressed because I will physically start to like shrivel up and tense up and get in, and like my shoulders will start to ache, like the muscles will literally be in a constant tension, right? And that's when I know that I'm getting into those stress modes. Like, and like you said, there's always the anxiety, there's that, that inner dialogue that starts to kind of, instead of being here or, being here like we like it to, it starts to, that inner monologue starts to go more negative, more negative. And, often it's a very subtle thing, right? Often it's, as subtle as, you start with, here we go again. And then before you know it, it's, I hate this and I hate that and blah, blah, blah. And you're down that path. But yeah, it's definitely like, for me, it's very a physical thing that I start to know, I'll start to feel those, the shoulders and the muscles, especially up in here, just kind of getting really tense and stressed. And I start to know that, yeah, that's when I know the stress is starting to come. And I know lots of people have different ways of feeling the stress. I know some people it's that inside, that pit of the stomach feeling. Some people have it more of an internal thing. Some people are more external thing. But I think the point is that you have to know yourself, and you have to know what indicators you have for yourself that start to show that you're having stress, and listen to others. Like, I'm going to take a guess, but I'm willing to bet your wife knows when you're getting stressed.
100%. Right. 100%. It's getting, well, it's at the point now where I've been working on, like, I take stress very seriously, and I'm actively working on processes on reducing my stress in the moment and being present. And so, when I get stressed, she gets stressed. It tenses up because
Mhm.
it's contagious. Like, that energy just rubs off on other people, and so I can see her tensing up, and I'm like, "We're good, we're good." I'm working on it. So,
Mhm.
that's something that I can say. We're getting better, but yes, 100%, she can tell when I'm stressed.
Yeah. And I know, like, same thing, like people around me start to notice those signs and stress. So, when we're talking about stress, and just to give people who are listening some highlights to note in themselves, right? And one of those, some ways to assess yourself, that's what I'm trying to get at, some ways to assess yourself, right? Number one, how are you feeling physically? Like, what is your body doing, right? What is your inner monologue doing, right? What are those those brain waves that you're hearing? What are they doing, right? How are you feeling on the inside? Things like suddenly having lots of heartburn or lots of indigestion or whatever not. Definitely looking at those things and thinking about those things and being mindful of those things, right? I know that, especially as guys are like mindful, but being mindful is important. You have to be able to look at yourself honestly and know where you're at. And looking at those things, I think, is very important, right? But once you know that you're stressed,
Mhm.
right? Once you know that you're stressed, and I think we all, in a general sense, we all know when we are stressed. We may not want to admit it, we may not want to deal with it, but we all know when we're stressed. So once we're there, once we know we're stressed, the next step is, what are we going to do about it? Right? Especially as guys, what do we need to do in order to lift ourselves up out of where we are?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. So for me, I share with you, I'm into yoga and meditation, so right now the wife and I, we're doing the 75 hard challenge.
Mhm.
And so we have to work out twice a day. We're following a specific diet. We're not drinking alcohol, and we have to read every day.
Mhm.
So, with that being said, it made me realize that, it's okay to take time and do yoga. Like, it sounds crazy as men to just be up there doing yoga, like getting in all those weird poses and things. But there's different types of yoga that you could do. And I share with you one specifically that I do, and it focuses on your, we can get real scientific. It focuses on
Mhm.
your I can't think of what it's called now, But your central nervous system, there's specific your limbic system. It
Hmm.
focuses on your limbic system, and it's an ancient practice, yoga itself. But they're recently discovering the scientific aspects of it and how it calms you down and it relaxes you. And so, I'll sit there and I'll do yoga, and it releases so much stress. And it's a preventative measure that you can do at the beginning of the day or in the night to gear yourself for the next day. It's something that you can do in real time to, if you're in the moment, you like, oh, I'm gonna just walk off and go do yoga.
Hmm.
Also breathing, taking deep breaths, and you can go on YouTube and listen to guided meditations through breathing. A big one, which I think is something that we take for granted, is going for a walk. Literally going
Mm.
for a walk. If I'm in the office and I feel like I need to take a break, I just put on my shoes and I'll go because we have a greenway not too far away from the office. I put on my walking shoes and I'll just go take a walk and I'll look at the water flowing and the trees and listen to the birds and watch the deer run by and I de-stress. So those are some strategies that I use that I know specifically work for me. What about you? What do
Mm.
you do?
Do you know what? I'm very similar to that. When I like before I worked from home, right? And working from home is just the greatest because I can literally just get up when I want to, which is great. But
Hmm.
even when I was working in the office, that's exactly what I used to do. I used to just get up and get outside. Like even if I was just walking around the parking lot, right? Just getting up, getting away from what you're doing, and just taking a few seconds to breathe, or just notice a bird, or enjoy the feeling of the sun just hitting you, right? Getting that vitamin D hit. Those are definite things. Or, outside of the workplace, when it's like home stress, again, going for a walk, like you said, or finding time like a lot of these things are like the medicine, right? Like you are stressed, so what do you do to bring that down? But doing these things in advance are also ways to kind of keep the stress from getting to that point where it has to be medicine.
Hmm.
Right. And I mean, you were saying yoga, and I was like, huh, learned something new about Curtis, yoga man. But to be straight, when I was doing photography, I used to do yoga before our shoots. Right. Our shoots were quite demanding. We used to do quite high level photography. I don't know if I've ever shown you the stuff that I used to do, but it was quite high level photography. And because of that, we kind of had to be physically and mentally ready to to do these shoots. So we would actually, do yoga, and do stretching, especially making sure that our like shoulders, our limbs were loose and such like that. That's stuff that we did.
Okay. My baby girl just brought me a sock, y'all. We got a sock.
Well, there you go. Do you know what? Up here, our postal service is on strike, so I would love to get any sort of delivery right now.
I bet, man. Man.
We
So
still
how are
got,
you
I
dealing
mean,
with that stress? I mean, that's a different form of stress. Politics. That's a big one.
do you know what? It's weird that I am more stressed about United States politics than I am about Canadian politics.
Really?
And well, I mean, there's this old saying that whenever the US has a sniffle, Canada catches cold, right? And that's to say, like, we're very intertwined, right? And the sentiments that start down in the States typically start to creep up to the North. And I know that, the United States right now is in a very particular stage and era that is causing many people stress, right? And I get it because I feel stress about it. Like I look at what's happening in the States, even though we don't have the same laws or anything like that, like we're separate. But I look at it and I'm like, oh my Lord, what is what is happening? Because what tends to happen is those sentiments come up north. So like especially here in Alberta in my province where I am, right, there are a lot of people who think very similarly to the ways that are being fought in the States. And that then causes me some stress. And I mean, as you know, that's not a stress you can do something about.
Right.
Like, like you can't change the government at your whim to relieve your stress, right? And you have to, but you have to, in some ways, number one, a modicum of acceptance, right? It is what it is, right? There are things in your life that you cannot change. So, getting that acceptance, and even in your regular life, like there are things at work you cannot change. There are things in your relationships you cannot change. Bringing it back to, relationships and, all that kind of stuff, right? There are things about my ex I cannot change. Can't change them, right? No matter what, no matter how. So they are going to be stressors in my life that I can't change them other than to accept them and work through them,
Mm-hmm.
right? If that makes any sense. I'm hoping it does, but I think that makes sense. So, and working through that acceptance actually is a great way to relieve the stress on it, because oftentimes your stress is a matter of, I don't like this thing, I want it to change, and I can't, so I feel the strain, right? And just getting to the point where you understand that, okay, this thing has happened, or it's happening, or it's a part of, the other person's life or how they've decided to do things now. I can't change that. I'm going to accept it. I'm going to work through it. And I'm going to find ways around having to focus on that.
That's really good. Okay. That's really good. I mean, it's the truth. When you have those types of situations and you can't change it, what is it? The serenity prayer? I know you would know.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
serenity prayer, actually referring to it and internalizing it and just realizing the things that you can't change, just getting the strength to deal with it the best way you can because
Ex-
it's not going anywhere. And
exactly. And it's kind of like the I guess kind of the Buddhist type of thinking as well. Just let it go, because you can't change the universe, you can't change the world. You are simply a part of it,
mhm.
right? So you let those things go like water off a duck's back. You just let it go, right? And
Okay.
that's definitely a really, like, it's a big way of just reducing that stress, is not letting it become a stressor in the first place.
Hmm.
Right? You don't have that control, so don't try. Like, I mean, I have things about, the other side of my life, my ex and stuff like that, that I would love to change. And I could let them stress me out, right? I could let them stress me out, right? As a for instance, right, my daughter is being kind of pushed and cajoled into the LGBT community. She's 11, right? She doesn't know anything about love, nothing, but she's being pushed in that direction. Now,
Can
I
you
have
can you elaborate on that in a as best as you can? Because when you say pushed into that community, like what exactly do you mean?
so she is being encouraged to look at alternative relationship structures. even
And
though even though she's 11 and she doesn't know anything about relationship structures, like she hasn't hit puberty yet, like she's not looking at boys or anything like that in a romantic way, but she's being encouraged to specifically look at girls and so on and so forth as objects of affection before she even has the ability to have those affections.
so hold on. And I don't mean to nitpick on this thing, but this
Go.
is really like so. Is it in terms of being pushed? Is it like, hey, look at this over here. This is what you should do. Like how does one get there? I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out because it's like you
So
have
I mean,
relationships
so
and
it's more along the lines of, hey, I've got this friend who is a girl. Oh, is she your girlfriend?
ah, okay,
Oh,
Okay.
she should be your girlfriend. Oh, you guys are so cute together. You're like a cute little couple, right?
Really?
So it's not a straight out boom in your face, this is what you should do. It's more of a subtle push you in that direction, just grab you in that direction, and to the point of
Water. Okay. You have water. Okay.
I'm loving it.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's that kind of subtle thing, even to the point where my daughter at one point in time, she didn't want to tell me something about her friend. Get that in camera, her friend. And she's
Mm-hmm.
like, "Oh, mommy said that you wouldn't like it." Right? So I knew that it's being pushed in that direction. It's being pushed in that direction because she knows that I was a pastor. And as a Christian, we have, a certain sense about those type of things.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I could let it get me all whew, and I can push it and I could be like that, right? And but it's far easier just to say, "Do you know what? Eventually puberty is going to hit and she's going to start liking who she's going to like, right? And for the majority of us, we're going to see somebody of the opposite sex and we're going to go boing and away we go, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why fight it now to make it something that becomes a battle, that becomes a stressor, when frankly biology is mainly on my side here.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And if at the end of the day, right, she hits puberty, she gains some insight into this for her own sake, and she decides that's the way she wants to go, well, right, I cannot fight her on who she likes and loves eventually, and so on and so forth. I can be the example, and I can give her, show my life as what it is, but I can't force her into liking or not liking any particular person or type of person at the end of
Mm-hmm.
the day. That is beyond my control. So instead of saying, "Oh my gosh, no, you can't do that. No, 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 Christians don't do that," and getting right, I just have to let go and I have to say, "Do you know what? You like who you like right now, right? This is not a fight that I need to have today, right? And it's
Mm-hmm.
likely not a fight I need to have tomorrow, right? Because, like I said, if biology doesn't win out for me, then it wasn't something I was ever going to win."
Makes sense. Wow, man. It's crazy. I won't. Yeah, I've been working on not using the word crazy to describe situations. 'Cause when you call it crazy, it's kind of dismissive. Not from a
Mm,
PR standpoint, being politically correct, but more so. I think when we label something immediately, we miss the opportunity to understand it better and learn from it.
mm,
So I won't say it's crazy. What I'll say it's unexpected to see that is something that's being pushed,
mm,
because you hear people say that there's an agenda, which is why I
mm,
asked, when you
mhm.
say push, what do you mean? Like, where's that coming from? So to
So
hear that, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, so I was going to say this agenda is not like the LGBTQ gay agenda. This is the try and drive a wedge between a father and a daughter agenda,
Man,
right?
yeah.
That's so it's a completely different agenda. It's the I know the general morality of this dad, and I know that this should apply stress to him and apply stress to the relationship between him and his daughter. So I'm going to do that thing in order to apply some subtle stress,
So the
right?
context is more of using that as a weapon to get to you through the child.
hmm And I mean, I have a bit of an insight into it because it's not the first time this has happened. My eldest son was also pushed in that direction. And for a while, he had a boyfriend and he was wearing LGBTQ paraphernalia and such like that. And do not get me wrong. I'm going to talk directly into the camera so people can see this. Do not get me wrong. I am not anti gay. I am not homophobic. I am not the type of person who believes that somebody cannot love who they want to love. I think you can. And I think it is beautiful and acceptable and okay. Right? That being said, that being said, I know my children, right? And like the way my eldest son manifested, he was being pushed in that direction, pushed in that direction, and then he hit puberty, and the first girl he saw, that was that, right? And I'm glad I didn't push on him, because if I feel like if I had pushed on him and tried to push my morality on him, it would have just enticed him to go in the opposite direction. But by just letting it go and saying, you know what, you do you, buddy, right? I'm not, for a while he wanted to be called, they, she, or they as his pronouns. And I said, no, you're my son, right? I'm not going to make a fight out of this, but I'm also not going to call you my daughter, right? And I just let it. And he was mad that I wasn't like engaging and getting in there. And then, like I said, puberty hit and he saw girls, and that was that, right?
I think we should definitely table this one, because
Yes.
because this is about to go in a whole different direction. I think that one, I think we should sit down and go over what we want to discuss next year, since this is the
Yeah,
last
for sure.
episode of the
This
year.
is the last
And
episode of the year.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and this is definitely one I think a lot of people can learn from your experience. Even me, granted, I don't foresee that in my future, but it's possible, And if that does occur, I think I could take a lot of wisdom from you and how you dealt with that. But we're gonna
But
have to
stress.
table
We're
that
talking
one.
about
'Cause,
stress. Yeah.
man, yeah, right. Because the show is gonna go in a whole different direction and talk about something totally out there.
Fair,
So,
fair
with
enough.
that being said, what
back
about
back to stress.
managing
Yeah.
time? You see that transition right there? What about
Good.
managing time? How do you deal with managing your time and not getting stressed out by all of the different things that you have going on as a father, a working
Yeah, straight up, I suck. I suck at managing my time. I straight up am not good at it. And I mean, as somebody who's got like so many balls in the air, there's the Optimist Guide, there's the book I'm writing, of the same title. There's MNTV that I'm doing as well. I have a side business in the IT world, and I work.
father?
And I suck at managing all those balls. And there is always a ball that has been dropped. Almost always a ball that has been dropped. So this is definitely somewhere that I actually have a lot of work to do, right? And I have thought about every app under the sun that gives you, like right now, I wish I could turn it around, but I'm staring at a whiteboard,
Hey,
right?
shout out to the whiteboard. I have one, two, three, four, five. I have five whiteboards and I have one in the garage. So yeah,
Yeah.
shout out to the whiteboard. Is it gonna do
No.
it?
Yeah,
Uh
so I mean,
oh,
the
there it is.
whiteboard is there
Yeah.
it is. And the whiteboard is great because you can write on it, you can erase it, write on it again, and as things change and shift, you can write on it. It is also the downfall of the whiteboard is its impermanence, right? There's not something that is changing day to day that's telling you this is what you need to focus on every kind of day, right? You can erase it, you can up, and it's very intransient. It's great for, like, I find it is great for writing down ideas, right? So I write down a lot of my ideas on uh I write a lot of my ideas on my whiteboard. So, like in front of me, I have ideas for the Optimist Guide, for the Dad Survival Guides. I have ideas for. I have things that I need to do for work in general projects. I have stuff that I have for MNTV. I have stuff that I've got for my IT thing. So I've got lots of different ideas in general and such like that on my whiteboard. But because I've got so much on my whiteboard, I tend to look at it and I go, oh my gosh, what should I be looking at here? And I try to use colors to differentiate things. I try to use, calendars or, write things out or whatever not. But I'm definitely constantly missing things. So I actually personally have to find better ways than just a whiteboard and a calendar to kind of organize and be more. But I mean, this is a problem of my own making, right? I chose to have more of these projects and all that kind of stuff that I've got going. So, yeah, it's a problem of my own making. That's my point. I'm not sad to have the problem, but it is definitely something that I have to work on a lot. How do you do it?
I'm very similar to you. So, not perfect, and it's something that I work on often. So, of course, I have the whiteboards. I've been doing a lot of the online calendar. Well,
Hmm.
Outlook. That's been helping. I have a let me see. I was trying to find it in between all of the other things that are going on. But I have a notebook, a little pocket size, not pocket size. It's a where is it? Oh, here it is, right here. So I have this little notebook that I keep day to day things in. I try to set daily tasks and follow those, and that helps out a little. Um, Again, it's still a work in progress. I still have things that slip through the cracks. For example, I haven't been blogging for a while. I
Hmm.
haven't, you know, getting my content out there as much as I would like, because for me, I'm really good at eliminating things and putting them on the back burner to focus on other things. And I have to work on figuring out how I can do that in a sustainable method, because I mean, I haven't put out a blog in a little second, and
Hmm.
it's not
And
that
we're
I
missing
haven't
your
been
content,
recording.
man. We're missing it.
And it's not like I don't have content. It's not like I'm not recording, but taking the time to edit and upload it is really my Achilles heel. So maybe it's outsourcing that. I don't know.
Mhm.
It's something that I'm working on, and yeah, I don't have an answer. It
But
is
you know what? You
definitely
did make a good point in there, and the good point that you made was you're good at putting things on the back burner, which is great, right? Being able to just say, "Do you know what? This is not a priority right now. I'm gonna shelve this over here. I'm going to put it on the back burner, and I'm not going to let it be an additional stressor in my life right now." Right? I mean, I think that's a very good thing. And again, it's something that I'm bad at. Like I said, I have so many balls up in the air that I don't know what to do with them all. And I mean, I'm clearly not a great juggler, so I'm constantly dropping balls. So I think that being able to say, "Do you know what? This isn't a priority right now. I'm gonna put it aside." And I mean, to that, I did also. I took a break from doing most of my YouTube stuff, with the exception of this stream because we do it once a month, right?
right.
But I had to take a break too and say, okay, do I really want to do this? Do me and the kids really want to do this, right? And we decided we did, so I've gotten back into it. But and I'm kind of taking it in different directions. But the point is, I think it's a good thing to be able to say, do you know what, this thing is not that much of a priority. Let's let's back burner it for now, so that we can focus on other more important things, right? So that you're not constantly having the stressor of I just have too many things on the plate.
It is a good thing, yes, but at the same time, it is something that, the vlog is important to me, and creating content is important to me.
Hmm.
So I don't stress about it, but at the same time, it's always like, man, I really enjoy doing that, and it is something that I want to, like, eliminating things is not something that I want to work on, but figuring out how I can incorporate more into my bandwidth, I would really want to do that, because it's not getting less stressful. For example, next year, and this ties into stress. January, I'm going back to school. Like, I'm going
Oh,
back to
you
school
man.
to you know, get more information. I'm working on more certifications. Like, I'm not slowing down. I'm not eliminating. I'm adding more on my plate. So
Mhm.
it is a good solution to just say no, I'm not doing that. But at the same time, it's things that I really want to do that feed me and they fuel me. Creating
Fair
content I
enough.
enjoy doing. It's something that brings me joy. And to not do that, it takes away from that joy. So figuring out how I can, you know, eliminate the right things maybe and focus on
Yeah,
that do bring joy to myself as well, because that does relieve stress. So
for sure.
it's something that I'm working on, that I'll say.
Yeah. Also, I can't wait to see your channel change to like Dr. Curtis York since you
Yeah,
Dr. Curtis York.
yeah. I mean, even with that, rebranding. I don't know. I've been flirting with the idea of creating another channel just to kind of niche down and worry about that, but then also have the vlog with everybody. So it,
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't have the answer to that one. That is definitely still a work in progress for me.
No, I get that. So, support systems, and I think this is a big one too, and something that I am just getting back into, right? And this is not to like this is not a sad part where I say I've been such a lonely guy for so long and whatever. Not, but one of the outcroppings of going through a, big, bad, heavy separation and divorce is that you lose a lot of friends, right? You just do, right? And you lose that support system. But you also start to learn who your real ride or dies are, right? And I think, having a good support system around you is just, it's key. It's important. Even as simple as just somebody that you can go to lunch to or have a conversation with, once a week or once a month or whatever not. Like I have a friend who, once a month or so, we go to IHOP, we just sit and we just talk for a couple of hours, right? She's got stuff that's going on in her life that she needs to decompress from. I obviously have stuff in my life need to decompress from, and it's a real help because we're each other's kind of support system, something we can talk about to each other, right, and get that out there. So having a good support system, I think, is a real important part of dealing with stress.
Yeah, I agree. My big support is my wife, man. Like,
Mm,
not to be that guy, but honestly, she makes a lot of things easier, and even with that, she has a lot of stress too. So I'm not going to sit here and be one of those guys, but it is good having that help, man. Internally to go through this thing with somebody and know that you're
mhm,
not alone. Outside of her, we keep it fairly small. That's something that we both decided that we want to work on for the next year. Utilizing our village more and,
mhm.
um, trusting our friends more and, you know, hanging out with them, spending time, nurturing those relationships, not just using them to keep the kids, but actually building and growing out that support system that you're speaking of, having people that we can talk to and go through things with and recreate that. I think, and maybe I'm not going to go on a tangent, but we can put a pin in this one as well. But just, I think that as a society, we've lost sight of that support system, or we don't put as much
Mhm,
stock into it as people used to. So,
mhm.
working on that and dealing with that is definitely a great stress reliever. So I agree, man, 100% that you got to utilize that support system.
Yeah, I think so. So I'm going to move this along because we're coming up on quarter two, so we want to move it along too. But talking about our hobbies and well, my humor. I'm a funny guy. I don't know about you, but having those hobbies and stuff like that, things that you can go and do and decompress from. I mean, YouTube is one of those things for me. Like YouTube is one of those things that I can sit down, I can do. Like I love filming with the kids and so on and so forth, and that's fun. But honestly, sitting down and editing videos or coming up with the next thing or whatever not is actually one of those things that kind of helps me relieve stress. I mean, it is another stress because I mean, we're trying to get to monetization and we're doing all the YouTube stuff, but it's also a great stress reliever because while I'm doing that, I'm not thinking about everything else, right? And just having some of those hobbies. I used to be into RC helicopters, right?
Nice.
Until my last one was stolen, but whatever, right? But I was into that, as well. Just stuff that you can just turn off your brain from everything else and push it towards, just focusing on something that isn't the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, hobbies are really big. I'm a gamer. I'm a very, very,
Mm,
very big gamer. I like to sit down and play games. I enjoy reading.
mhm.
I read a lot of books. I read physical books and listen to audio books. So I do a lot of reading. I'd say on a good year, I think the most books I've read in a year was like 104. On
Wow.
a low end, I at least try to read 2 books a month, so 24 books a year.
Mhm.
Very big reader. That brings me a lot of peace and stress, and I mean, not
Yeah.
relieves a lot of stress. That's a hobby that I enjoy. Creating content is the fun part for me. The editing, not so much, which is
Yeah.
why I have a backload of videos recorded that have never been edited and uploaded. So,
Mhm.
I enjoy creating the content, but for me, the editing part isn't something that I enjoy doing as much. And walking, I enjoy fishing. I haven't been able to do it as much as I like, but yeah, those types of things. I think hobbies are mandatory, and I think that we all have a habit of monetizing things and trying to do things just to make money, but it is also really good to have things to do that don't have money associated with them,
Mhm.
and just enjoy the process of doing those things.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. 100%. So let's talk about just why I guess this is so important. How, like, when you get stressed, just tell us a little bit about how that affects you as a father,
Okay.
like, and
um
your life as a father, right? Like, yeah.
I think, when you're stressed as a father, and a lot of times as men, our stress is attached to finances.
Mm,
And I think that that's something that we don't really discuss enough, how finances affect your stress and the way that you view yourself as a father, man. Because we were taught, or I can say I was taught rather, that men are providers and that our
mhm,
job is to be able to put food on the table and um, make sure that financially everyone's good. So,
mhm,
a personal note, last year when I was unemployed and I was just sitting around, I felt less than, and that was a very stressful thing. And I think that it came out in multiple ways as a father. I was in myself a lot, so I wasn't really able to attend to the kids as much as I normally would under normal circumstances. I would say that the fuse was a lot shorter, so my temper was a lot shorter. I was a lot more anxious. And even looking back to last year, even when I was employed, I was in a very stressful situation. So, I was already on a short fuse, and I was already stressed, and I was already, you know, I was self-aware enough to work on not taking it out on the family, but I'm not perfect and that stuff does
mhm,
spill over. So I think that is the biggest thing. Your temper gets shorter. You get upset over things that normally wouldn't bother you because
mhm,
your cup is already full. And so just adding random things to the cup when it's already full, it's gonna spill over. So I think for me that was how, and that is, that's something that's ongoing. So I would say that is how, stress affects me as a father. What about
mhm.
you? How does stress affect your fatherhood and your parenting style?
Do you know what? Exactly the same, like word for word. When the more stressed I get, the more short I am with the kids, the more the whole family dynamic becomes stressful, especially because, like you said, we are born and we're taught from day one, dad brings home the bacon. That's dad's job. So if dad doesn't have enough money to provide for the family, dad ain't doing his part of this thing, right? And that's a stressful way to live, especially in this world where there's no way, like there's no family that really, except for in very rare cases where one family member, one person can provide enough for the whole family. But we
Mm-hmm.
still have that whole that stress on us as men that we should be the primary financial support for the family. And when we're not, right? Or when the kids are asking for things and we can't say yes, there's definitely that push and that feeling of I am less than, I am not good enough, I'm not doing enough, I have to do more. And then again, you get, I mean, it's like this feedback loop where even if you're doing okay, you feel like I'm not doing enough, and that adds to more stress, and that stress, affects you in the rest of your life, which, curtails your ability to do more, which then brings it back around. Right. I mean, if you're not your best at work, you don't get bonuses, you don't get raises and all that kind of stuff. And then you get stressed because of that, which brings it back around. So, 100%, when I was in a place, right, and I thank God Almighty that I am in a place now where I'm a little more financially good, right? And it has taken a lot of work and a lot of effort and a lot of time to get there. But it is a very different dynamic, when you, even if you're working, when your kids say, "Hey, daddy, can I have this or can I do that?" And you have to say no because there just ain't the coin in the bank account, right? That adds stress to you because you want to. We're kind of built that way to be. We should be able to say yes to our kids' wants and desires and such like that, right? And you take it up a level and suddenly you're able to say, okay, maybe not now, but maybe later. That feels better. But
Right.
when you're getting to the point where your kid can say, hey, I'd like this, and you can be like, sure, let's do it, that feels good, right? And it's not everything. I'm not at that point where no matter what my kid asks for, I can just snap my fingers and do it. Definitely not. But getting that kind of financial stress of I am the only thing that can provide for them. And that's not true. Like you said, it's a village, right? And there are things like there is a part that I have to play. I am their father, right? But there is parts that that village can play to pick that stress up, right? For instance, there's one grandmother, great grandmother actually, that whenever they're with me, at least once, she takes them swimming, right? That takes a whole load off of me because it's one thing I don't have to necessarily think about doing for them. They get that activity, they enjoy it, and it creates that relationship with that great grandparent as well. That's great, right? There's another grandparent that likes to every once in a while just pick them up from school and just hold them. I'm like, and that again, that's another stress that's off. So that village can help you, kind of pick that those weights off of your shoulders as well, for sure. uh, I think Curtis just died on us here, but that's all right. We'll continue. We'll continue on. So, where I see that's what happens when your co-host suddenly disappears. You're like, what did I do? I was having a conversation, and now I'm not having a conversation. Weird. That's all right. Um, Something I wanted to touch on as well was some ways to teach your kids about stress. And I know this is one that I would have ended up talking a bit more on as Curtis's kids are younger. But your kids will get stressed too, and especially if you're in a position where you're going through a divorce or whatever, not, and the kids are back and forth. Your kids, even if they don't necessarily show it as I'm stressed out, they are feeling stressed and they're going to feel stressed, and that's something that you should definitely need to talk to your children about, is how do your children deal with stress, right? And a lot of the ways that your kids are going to need to deal with stress are the same way you're going to need to deal with stress, right? We need to find them hobbies and outlets for them to talk and to just have some outlets for their frustrations and such like that. um, Having hobbies, having somebody to talk to, and if that means getting them a psychiatrist or a counselor or something like that, that's definitely something that you can do or should do to help your children through their stresses, because they will have stresses, right? And these are things that they're going to have to learn right from young age all the way up through high school into university and adulthood and so on and so forth. How teaching them to deal with stress early will definitely help them to get to the point where they can deal with it successfully, and that will help them into their adult stages of life and such like that as well. So I don't know if you have any thoughts about what you have no idea I was talking about.
I know exactly what you were talking about because I'm
Oh, you
here.
heard it?
I mean, I think that what you said is great. As fathers, we have to figure out the best way to help our children, and sometimes that may be talking to someone else. Because I mean,
Hmm.
a lot of times we weren't taught the proper way to deal, so we can't teach things that we don't fully understand. So maybe it
Hmm.
might be somebody else coming in with some sound advice and sharing that information to make things easier for them to cope and deal with things. I know that a lot of the older generations in the past always believe that you want to lead your children in a position to where they'll be better off than you are, and that you will be. So
Hmm.
yeah, getting that third party advice and talking to others that may have better qualified answers and that are trained. And then a lot of times, what the kids are dealing with today, we didn't have to deal with those things when we were their age and their mindset.
For
We
sure. Yeah.
I grew up with technology, but to the level that they have access to technology, I didn't have that.
Hmm.
I was in my early teens when the internet became accessible for everybody. And even
Hmm.
then, when it first started coming around and social media first started being a thing, there was one computer in the house and we had to share that computer. And so it was
Yeah.
very easy to monitor and
Remember
see
those days.
what you were doing on that computer. Your parent could easily just go and look up the history.
Yep.
Today, there's a lot more access. YouTube, of course, and then all of the little apps that have their own processes and ways of going about things. And so they just have a fire hose worth of information that's coming to them.
Hmm.
A lot of times we don't have the answers, and that's okay. We have to rely on people that have similar foundations and mindsets that we do, that may have more insight and answers that they can provide to give our children the best path forward.
For sure. So here's a question, and it just popped into my head. So in Australia, they are enacting a law or want to enact a law. I don't remember if they have or they're about to or trying to enact a law where social media will be banned for children under 16. Like, do you think, like, as far as like stress relieving and just getting kids out of that space where they have just everything thrown at them from every direction known to man? And I do think that, that adds to a lot of stress for kids nowadays. Like, do you think that's something that would work? Like, just getting them out of the social media sphere?
I 100% support that. I don't, yeah. And the reason I say that is because, you know, if we want children to be, well, I'll say it this way. If we want children to be children and we want them to have that period where they're learning and growing and discovering things as a child, meaning they don't see every single thing, then you definitely have to limit social media, and you definitely have to, because a 5-year old can't walk into a strip club, but a 5-year old can go on Twitter and they could see everything that's inside of a strip club. So if
Hmm.
that child can't go into a strip club, then that child should not be able to go to somewhere that's the equivalent of a strip club. Granted, obviously you can't touch what you see on social media, but you're still being exposed to that stuff. You know,
Hmm.
child can't go to, and you stop me if I'm going too far, but a child can't go to a drag bar or an LGBTQ bar or a club, but on social media, they are exposed to this stuff without any filter, without any explanation or anything whatsoever.
Hmm.
Even if you're a religious person, there are combative things that go against what you believe and what you agree to and how you want to train and bring up your child, that
Yeah.
are on social media. And it's going to expose your children to things that you may not be able to have those types of conversations with them
Hmm.
at that level and at that age. So yeah, I 100% think, and I mean it goes back to what I was saying earlier. You know, when we were coming up, we did not just have access to this stuff. You know, it wasn't just readily there. And
Hmm.
I know a lot of people like to push back and say, well, don't buy your kids phones and don't give your kids this or that. But the truth is, regardless of whether you buy your child a phone or a tablet, somebody around that child is going to be exposed to that same information. So
Hmm.
the answer is not to just deprive them of things that they're going to have to learn how to use and work with. But I think the better answer would be to control what,
Yeah.
you know, they are able to see and what they have access to. And I think that some of that responsibility goes to the people that create those things, or if we are going to change that and make that type of stuff readily accessible for everybody to have access to as a child, you know, then we need to look at the legislation as a whole. And if we're just going to have them able to be on social media and see everything, then honestly, I don't see the point of them not being able to go to a club. I
Hmm.
mean,
Fair
it,
enough.
it just
Fair
doesn't
enough.
make sense. Like if they can see and experience everything that's there without being able to physically touch it, but it's the same thing because they can see the woman on the pole, then why are we not letting them in the strip club? Like what's the difference to me?
Yeah.
That's my
No, I agree. And I mean, it's this weird place. And I mean, both the US and up here in Canada, we have this weird mix of I want my freedom to do whatever I want, whenever I want, however I want, and everybody should have absolute freedom to do whatever they want, whenever they want. But we also want to stop and protect our children from absolutely everything as well. And you're like, how do you do that? How do you say a child has the right to have a phone? They have the right to have TikTok. They have the right to have Facebook and Instagram and whatever. But we're going to protect them from drinking and drugs and bars and so on and so forth, but they get to know all about it because they can see it on Instagram and TikTok and all that kind of stuff. It's this weird dichotomy, right? Do you know, do you want absolute freedom or do you want, social protections? Which one do you want? It's a weird place we live in.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, to take it a step further, once upon a time I was a teacher, and this was back in 2015, 2016, which, you know, granted it was later in the social media era, but it was still very early compared to where we are now.
Hmm.
And things that the children were exposed to and the things that they knew, it was weird to me because granted, you know, I'm only 10 or 11 years older than them at the time, you know, but you know, they're having conversations about things that my friends and I would have conversations about.
Yeah.
And it's like, number one, why do you know this? And you know, it's not like they're having conversations about things that are beneficial or things that are groundbreaking or things that are gonna move us in a different era or a different generation. These are it's it's the low hanging fruit, it's
Yeah.
the debauchery, and it's the things that don't benefit them in a way that they can be competitive in a global scale or in a marketplace, you know. So
Yep. I agree.
we
I agree. Yeah.
so yeah, man, I think I don't have a problem with that at all. And I know that, you know, like you said, we're in this weird place where people want freedom, but they don't want freedom. And, you know, I mean, I think if we are going to have a government, then the government needs to be enforcing certain things, and the government does have to set parameters. You know, it's like
Mhm.
religion. Some people need religion. People need to be, some people just need to be told what to do because they don't have the mental capacity to make sound decisions.
Mhm.
And that religion or that government may be the only thing that stops these people from doing crazy things that
Mhm.
one hurt themselves and hurt other people. So there had and a child doesn't know better. Children can't
Yep.
distinguish between what's real and what's not real. And if it comes from the internet, then they automatically assume it's real because it looks to be a credible source. You know,
Mhm.
it's coming from a screen. It's an authority figure, whether we want to admit it or not. So
Yep.
yeah, I
And
don't. problem with that at all.
And it's funny because what I was going to say was, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. We all know that, that famous phrase, but that is whatever power is there, whether it be governmental power, whether it be religious power, whether it be social power, right? Or social media power, right? When there's too much of it, it becomes a bad thing. And then bringing it back to stress, it brings stress on all of us, right? We see this, our kids are seeing social media of people who are playing rich, famous, have all the money, have it all together, and they think my life isn't like this. Why? Stress, right? They have this world where somebody can say something about them behind their backs to millions of people. Stress, right? I mean, there was in Canada up here, there was a girl who committed suicide because somebody enticed her to take some pictures, right? Just like teenagers, and that person, they broke up, and that person put them all over the internet, and we're showing it all over the place, and she got, you know, bagged on and so on and so forth, and she ended up committing suicide. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, these things are things that become stresses on our children, right? And I don't necessarily advocate, like you said, it's not the matter of take their phones away. They should be on a social, on a media blackout until they're 18. That's not reasonable either. But we have to find better ways of monitoring them, right? Children need boundaries, right? That is something that a child needs, right? Because they can only know their boundaries if there's a boundary to know.
Right. And I'll say this because it looks like we're over. We're in
Yes.
overtime right now, deep. So I think that in terms of society, and this deals with stress as well. I think that we are in a place where in the past the people have guided technology. When you think about the printing press, the people
Mm,
control what would be put on the paper. You think about agriculture, the people control what they would be planting. You think about
mhm,
the industrial revolution, the people decided what they would manufacture and what they would produce. But the technological revolution is different because we're hitting a threshold now where the people aren't necessarily able to control the information because
mhm,
there's so much information. And
mhm,
no matter how you try to stop it, you try to slow it down, it's here and it's coming.
mhm,
And I don't think that there's enough people that are intelligent enough to one, fully understand what we're dealing with right now, and two, people that understand it and are able to figure out ways to regulate it in a healthy
yeah,
way, which also, again, tying it into stress, is creating a lot of stress because here we are with something that we don't fully understand, and it's causing a whole lot of different ramifications, and
mhm,
it's creating all types of things that we've never been exposed to before.
yeah,
And I think the challenge for all of us as fathers, as men, as human beings, as people, is to figure out what do we do with this thing that we've opened, and how can we integrate it in our lives in a way to
yeah.
benefit and not hurt us. So
Yeah, I agree, and I think that is a perfect place to end off. Like you said, we are into overtime. I know you've got the kids and all that stuff going on. My kids actually just came in the door too, so gotta do the dadding as well. But real quickly, I know you said you haven't done a lot of vlogging, but you had a lot of. Do you have anything that's going to come up on your channel?
yes. Now, when it's gonna come up, I don't know, but I definitely am going to work on that. I've been taking a page out of your book and planning my next year. So,
Hmm.
I'm definitely going to be figuring out the best way to incorporate that and make it a priority amongst all of the other things that I have going on. So,
Hmm.
um, yeah. And then January, we'll be back to do this again. So, yeah. What about you?
Absolutely.
What you have to tell
So
us first of all what you've already done recently because you put out some really good videos. So you need to tell us one what you've done and two what's coming up.
Sure. So I've got a bunch of stuff that's coming up and coming out. I did do a quick, recap. I took a break, right? We did our road trip, and I took a bit of a break. 2 months, didn't do anything. Now I'm coming back. So it was my birthday a little while ago. Kids and we went out to dinner theater. I was up on the stage, all that kind of stuff. That was fun. I bought myself a heated jacket, did an unboxing. I don't do unboxings, but now I've got two of them. One that I just did and one that'll be coming out again soon. We're planning a trip to Jamaica coming up. So, we're going to have a lot of videos kind of leading up to that in the summer. And I'm just going to do a lot more kind of informational stuff that I'm hoping is more useful to people on that channel. And of course, we're going to keep going on this, keep talking about, dad and father issues. We're going to be adding Alicia into the mix as well, which I think is going to be really cool for the channel and just kind of grow that. So yeah, there's lots coming on, and then I'm not stressed about it. It's good. I'm very happy about where things are going. I think it's going to be great. So yeah, that's what I've got going on as well. But I think we will cap it off there. I do really appreciate anybody who has been in our chats, those who have watched this or will watch this later. I really hope that this information is helpful to you. If you have questions or comments, absolutely stick them in the comments as well. We'll get back to you. We'll chat about them and we'll keep this conversation going. And otherwise, until next time, just stay optimistic.
Hey, there it is. There
Have a
it
good night, everybody.